All right, hi everybody. We are here with Scott from Canva. Actually, he's coming to us live from Atlantis, it looks like. How's the water down there, Scott?
It's quite fresh and clear. Got good visuals, so we're all good.
Wonderful. Well, what's exciting about that is, so you work for Canva, and I think a lot of people know what Canva is, but I'd love for you to tell us just quick high level, but we're kind of showing off a little bit of what Canva can do, right?
Yeah. The Zoom background is one of the new features that we've just added in. But effectively, it's a browser-based design platform, which allows you to create a whole bunch of creative designs. Majority of people tend to have social media posts and things like that, but we also allow presentations. You can edit videos. You can do a whole bunch of different content, and then publish through the platform as well.
Yeah, we are big fans of Canva. I use it constantly. So really excited to talk with you. I know so real quick, what roles are you currently hiring for right now and where?
Yeah, so our primary office is in Sydney.
Okay.
I'll just retake that when the dog hasn't gone crazy. Sorry.
Love it. I love this new way of life, the new normal. It's great.
So, our HQ is in Sydney, Australia. We do have an office based in the Philippines and one in China. So that's the predominant sites. We do have a few people stateside at the moment looking to build out some other functionalities. However, the product design dev component is predominantly in Sydney. And what we're hiring for is still across the board. All of our roles predominantly remain open. There is a number of logistics considerations, time zones, and a few other things that we're factoring in. So the current intent is to have key hires start remotely and onboard remotely. We've transitioned all of our onboarding, all of our stand-up day-to-day activities to remote first, with the view that beyond the situation coming back to some semblance of normal, I'm not sure what that looks like, that we would be relocating people to Sydney. So the view at the moment is wherever they are, if they can do the role, we will look to hire them based on being able to get them a machine and a few other things. And then outside of that, the long-term view would be still to have everyone co-located in Sydney predominantly. There are some business operations roles based in the US as well, and a few other things that could potentially be useful for your audience.
So just to clarify, it's a job and a trip to Sydney, Australia is what we get.
A move to Sydney.
Get the visa and the relo and all the fun parts about, being somewhere else in the world. But yeah, it's effectively designed to be everyone co-located in Sydney. We obviously have a large amount of flexibility in the day-to-day, but the communications channels, which is probably the thing that we're tackling at the moment the most, we've found to be really successful when everyone's within a short distance of each other.
Totally. I mean, and this is a situation that everyone around the globe's dealing with, right? And I don't think no one has ever seen a time like this, right? And we always talk about the workforce is global. The world is shrinking because of technology and because of our ability to go places. And so I think this is a huge opportunity, right? And to have people help people to think outside the box as to where is opportunity in this. So tell us some of why you're at Canva. Like, what gets you excited? What are the truths about Canva and the great things, the challenging things, but why are you there?
So I think that they are actually having an impact on the world, and I know a lot of companies try and talk about their values and the things that mean that they're not just taking money and running. But when you look at the Canva product and the excitement that people have when they use it and when they can create something good, there's a Twitter stream which is called Canva Love, and you would think that people like they're scarily obsessed with the product. And you know, it's quite cool to see the engagement point of that. We're also talking about something that primarily is a communication tool. So where we've got leaders standing on stage with mass media recording them and them confusing everybody, it's really useful to have a tool where you can articulate what you need to say and then share it en masse. So it was quite cool to see. I mean, the World Health Organization obviously have a big role in trying to clarify a lot of things and trying to at least reduce the fear factor for a lot of people. They've managed to start using Canva and publish a lot of their content. So if you have a look at any of their social posts, they'll come from Canva. And so the ability to have that kind of widespread impact is quite cool. And as opposed to a transactional business or a functional part of a business, this is actually creating content and then, you know, millions of people will consume. So an outsized reach from, you know, a startup in Sydney to the world that it can impact is probably the main interesting point at the moment. I think in a more broad sense, there isn't really a bound to the end. Like a lot of companies talk about like, this is what we need to do to achieve, but what we're the way the product is growing and what we want to do is build an ecosystem that makes everyone's life easy. So at the moment, you create your design, you have to download it and go to a whole bunch of other products in order to get that content out there. What we're trying to build is an ecosystem that will allow you to just create your content, press a button, and then publish it straight through.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. So the roles that that you're hiring for, I mean, what impact do those roles have on the overall company? You know, what when you think about and when you kind of write down the importance of these, what are those key things that, you know, if someone comes to work in one of these roles, this is their true impact on the organization?
Well, a lot of the time, it varies significantly depending on which part of the product you work on. So if we're talking from an engineering perspective, you'll be working on a particular subset of the product, and you'll be building that out. Some of the roles are brand new, and so they're not predefined. There's no boundary to it. It's literally a greenfield opportunity, and so I think that's quite a different approach where you can potentially take your previous experience and then apply it to all of the challenge that we're facing, and then build from that point. So it varies significantly depending on the role and the skill set. So I mean, we have a large portion of engineers already in the business, but then there's some roles that we might have one or two people that are doing it, and therefore literally expanding from the ground up. The impact that they can have is predominantly driven by the part of the product they work on. So some people are literally bringing a brand new part of the product to the market and taking it from an ideation or an experiment and then building it into this scalable solution that millions of people might use on a day-to-day basis. So impact varies significantly, and I don't want to say like everyone will make all the fancy stuff, because some of them might be data engineers and things like that. But when you talk about manipulating this one part or experimenting on this one part of the product and then driving utilization, retention, and other things like that, it becomes a much broader picture where each of the teams has to be able to work cohesively to get to that end goal of an ecosystem that drives all the content and makes it easy for people to consume and publish. And
totally. So now the secret sauce. I mean, you guys have everything from product engineers to HR to engineering. If you look at the site, and you guys have a ton of openings, obviously a lot in Sydney and some of the other areas that you mentioned. But how do I get engaged? Are your recruiters still actively looking at people as they apply online? We're in Colorado. If I were to apply from Colorado, do I still get a good look, even though I don't live in Sydney? Like, what's the secret? How do I apply?
Yeah, I mean, the applications are definitely being reviewed. We still have a large team of recruiters that are working on everyone coming through the pipeline. That's probably the path of least resistance. You'll see with the caveat of we are experiencing a larger volume of people applying. So not to be disparaging, but it may take a little bit longer And I appreciate some people have already expressed that their timeline is this week. And so unfortunately, we might not be able to cater to everybody's needs in that individual sense, but know that we will get back to you in due course. And I can't give you a timeline because obviously some roles have 500-600 people apply in a day, and others like have 50 in a week. So there's a difference in scale and impact, but certainly applying. The question we often get asked is, how do I stand out? And I don't really have an answer for that. I think if you demonstrate the experience that you have and the relevance to what we're trying to do, ideally up the top of a CV, makes it a lot clearer. I don't have like a 101, this is the guide to get an interview necessarily, but if you have relevant experience and you talk about that at the start, it's usually a lot higher probability of being engaged in the interview process.
Are there specific things you all are looking for? So, talking about like a mindset, right? And specific traits just based on your experience of people who are currently in some of these roles and who are happy and who are thriving and who are successful there. Like, what do they have in common? And what, people have, 2 or 3 of these traits that, that potentially is maybe the leg up for them. But if they see themselves in that, but what are those traits? What are those behaviors?
Yeah, I think the demonstrated component would be that they have the right foundation. So they're coming to a problem with potentially a variety of different options, and then they're selecting out of their kit bag like 6 options, and then they're selecting the one that makes the most sense for that certain situation. So I understand that fundamental skills isn't necessarily a thing you can demonstrate on a CV, but what I would suggest is that more a matter of, if you have the underpinnings to make good calls and you can extrapolate that out to the situation, that's probably the people that are most successful. So that tends to be so in engineering, for example, that tends to be a core foundation of decision-making, problem solving, that then extrapolates out to this explicit example. I'm going to go and do this research and come back with these types of solutions. A lot of it is collaborative. So I think that the other skill set that you would need to demonstrate is an ability to work with others, and currently the remote ability to work with others is going to be the main skill set that would, I think, help you succeed really easily. Having said that, we're still working on how we assess that skill set. So it's not something that we've got sorted, but I think that ability, not to say you need to work remotely, but you need to be able to collaborate and work cohesively with other people. The nature of Canva is that we have over a third of the business has relocated. So into the Sydney office. So there's a lot of people that have different perspectives that don't necessarily think in the same format. And it's not about, I guess, cognitive conformity. It's more about bringing ideas to the table and, having a strong opinion, but loosely holding on to that. So when you see a better option, you have the pragmatism to say that it actually is a better option, and let's go down this path and kind of change tack based on understanding and based on education. Then you can, kind of move forward and make good decisions. So I think that, collaboration and like collaboration and communication would be a core of that, and then foundational skills that mean you make good decisions. I appreciate that's not a definition, but if everyone makes 10 decisions in a day, it's likely to be that 4 of them are bad. So the closer you can get to 10 out of 10, the better. We accept that things happen, and you can't always get it 100%. But a more educated and informed decision usually leads to a better outcome, even if you do have to pivot along the way.
Yeah, well, that's
cool.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate it, Scott. Thanks for taking some time, today to talk about it. Like we said, when we talked to you earlier, this is really about just putting out the message that there's still opportunity out there. Like there's companies that are hiring, there's companies that are navigating through this, and everything is not stopping. We want to continue to push out the story of just, there's opportunity. You have to apply. There's a lot of people applying. This is not a guarantee of any sort. This is just to say, hey, take a look at Canva, great company. doing great work, and we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Thanks again, Scott. Really appreciate it. And yeah, please reach out to Canva if you're interested. Thanks.